Today we will be doing a video series where you guys give me some of your hot takes on what you would like to see happen with the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, if you want to be featured in these type of videos in the future, just make sure to be subscribed to the channel and just pay attention to the community posts on this channel. This is where you're going to have the opportunity to comment and have your take potentially be put up for analysis and discussion in the future. But in today's video, we got Biggie 6181's take of hire Todd Monken as head coach, sign Justin Fields as a free agent, and draft Jalen Milroe. So shout out to you for this take, and just there's definitely a lot of pack in there with this. And first and foremost, I do want to focus on quarterback Jaylen Milroe, because with the Raiders being outside of contention for, Shedeur Sanders, a Cam Ward, a guy like Jaylen Milroe may be a solid plan B and a solid option for us later in the draft. Jaylen Milroe is an interesting quarterback prospect, and he may be somebody that we're going to have to consider. Jaylen Milroe could be our plan B type of approach in the offseason in this year's draft. Now, to start, let's just give a quick background on Jaylen Milroe. And 2023, his junior season, this was Jaylen Milroe's breakout season. He was named the starting quarterback for Alabama after competing with other quarterbacks on the roster like Ty Simpson and Tyler Buckner. And his performance was inconsistent early on, which eventually led to him being benched after a loss to Texas, but he then regained the starting job. And Nick Saban spoke on why Jaylen Milroe was benched. He said one of the things we're trying to get Jaylen to do was change his style as a player and be that point guard. It took us taking his job away to get him able to buy into that. And when he did, he became a much better player, a much better leader, and he developed the confidence of the team. Jaylen Milroe eventually led Alabama to a 12-1 record that season, including an SEC championship, where he was named MVP after passing for 2 touchdowns and 192 yards against Georgia. And jumping forward to his stats that season, passing-wise, he had 2,718 passing yards, 23 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. When it comes to rushing, he had 468 yards on the ground and 12 touchdowns. He eventually led them to a Rose Bowl where they lost to Michigan. And now jumping to 2024, he returned for his senior season. Milroe continued to develop under a new head coach at Alabama. Against Georgia, he had an outstanding performance, throwing for 374 yards, 2 touchdowns, alongside of 117 yards on the ground with 2 more scores. His stats in 2024, 2,652 passing yards, 15 touchdown passes, 10 interceptions, and rushing, he had 719 yards and 20 touchdowns. So technically speaking, he did regress as a passer in terms of his statistics, but he nearly doubled his rushing stats. And it is worth noting that he did have some bad performances this season. One of them is definitely against Oklahoma, where he had 11 completions out of 26 attempts for 164 yards, 3 interceptions, including 1 pick six. So it definitely is important to know that he played his worst game of the season in a critical loss to Oklahoma, which led them to missing the college football playoffs this season. And last night, he played his bowl game in the ReliaQuest Bowl against Michigan. They lost to Michigan again, and his stats were 16 completions out of 32 attempts for 192 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 16 carries for 7 yards with 2 fumbles, so 3 total turnovers. Definitely wasn't a good look for him yesterday. But overall, Jaylen Milroe definitely had some standout performances this season, but his performance against Oklahoma and yesterday were definitely some low points in his season. But it is important to know that he has been developing as a quarterback these last few seasons. He's definitely a very raw prospect. He's turned into a more complete quarterback with improvements in leadership, deep ball accuracy, and just overall efficiency. And this is really what his college career has been marked by, just his improvement, his dual threat ability. He has a big arm, and he's super effective on the ground. And it really has made him one of the more dynamic quarterbacks in college football. Now, one thing I will say, it is important to know that he's still not officially declared for the NFL draft, but most analysts believe he will. And when it comes to just his strengths and weaknesses as a prospect, Definitely his strengths is his athleticism, the arm strength, his instincts as a playmaker, his leadership. Some of the weaknesses though, decision making and the overall field vision as a quarterback, pocket presence, and his throwing mechanics definitely need to be refined as well. Consistency is also a weakness, and his processing speed is another concern when it comes to processing things under pressure, where sometimes he fails to quickly recognize defensive schemes or adjust plays, which can lead to poor decisions and that can result in turnovers. But when it comes to Jalen Milroe, I mean, a quick summary for him would just have to be that he has all the physical tools and the athletic gifts that make him an exciting prospect. He has developed as a passer, and he is just a raw prospect, but there's no doubt that he has elite physical traits. I mean, just watch the guy play. To me, it's just crazy to see how quick his acceleration is, how powerful of a runner he is, and he's definitely a very exciting prospect. And he's one of those prospects that everybody is going to kind of hype up when it comes to his potential and just the upside he brings to the table. Now, there's a lot of things he needs to work on before he can reach that. But that is something that is always going to factor in the NFL draft. And I think that's one thing that, we do have to watch out for him, is just the fact that every year in the NFL draft, post-combine, there's always one NFL prospect that just ends up shooting up draft boards due to his potential and just the elite physical traits he has. And if Jalen Milroe performs well in the combine, he could be one of those prospects this year. I mean, one guy that really reminds me of this is a guy like Anthony Richardson. I mean, Anthony Richardson, a couple years ago, he was an exciting prospect. And before the combine, in the early stages of the offseason, going into the draft, most people had him as a second, third round talent, more of a developmental type of quarterback. But then just out of nowhere, his name skyrocketed and he ended up being a top 5 draft pick to the Indianapolis Colts, and it really hasn't panned out for them thus far. So I think that's really the biggest thing I would be concerned about if we were to draft a Jalen Milroe. You cannot go too high on him. To me, he's a second rounder. I wouldn't draft him any earlier than that. He's going to be a developmental type of quarterback, so you're going to have to make sure you either have a good offensive-minded head coach or have a really good offensive coordinator that has a track record of working with young quarterbacks and helping them develop, because he's going to be more of a quarterback that it's going to be best for him to sit out a year and try to improve as a passer, because the athletic traits, he has it, but if he can just become more reliable as a thrower, he could be a super dynamic quarterback. But another thing that he mentioned was to hire Todd Monken as the head coach of this football team. So in that sense, this would definitely be an interesting hire if you were to go with a Jalen Milroe. Now, quick background on Todd Monken. He's the current offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. He's been around for a while. His coaching career is pretty extensive in college football. He was at Eastern Michigan University from 1998 to 99 as an offensive coordinator. Oklahoma State 2011-2012. When he was the offensive coordinator for Oklahoma State too, he helped develop Justin Blackmon into one of the best receivers that season. He was with the University in Georgia in 2020 to 2022 as the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, leading them to back-to-back national championships in 2021 and 2022. And it's important to know that he was coaching Brock Bowers at that point. So that's a nice little connection, and I'm sure he would know exactly how to utilize Brock Bowers in the most effective way. And he does have some head coaching experience as well. From 2013 to 2015, he was coaching Southern Mississippi. He took over a team that came off of an 0-12 season, and he eventually managed to turn them around, making them bowl eligible by his 3rd year. He has a lot of NFL experience as well. He was a wide receiver coach for Jacksonville from 2007 to 2010. He was the offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay from 2016 to 2018, where Mike Evans completely balled out that season in 2018. He was offensive coordinator for the Browns in 2019, and he is currently the Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator, where he led the Ravens to be ranked number 4 in scoring in his first season, averaging 28.4 points per game. And we just saw Lamar Jackson has been having one of his best statistical seasons last year and this year, so he's been a phenomenal hire for the Baltimore Ravens. And when it comes to him, I mean, his coaching philosophy, he's a guy that emphasizes offensive balance. He has been very versatile as a play caller with personnel grouping with the Ravens. He likes to challenge different parts of the field to keep defenses on their heels and off balance. And he's just a guy that is a modern style NFL offensive play caller. He adapts to his schemes, to his players. And I just like his track record overall. He has quite a few notable achievements. I mean, national championships with Georgia, finalist for AP, NFL Assistant Coach of the Year last season with the Ravens. And in his 2 years with the Ravens, he has a 21-9 record. So Todd Monken is definitely going to be a sneaky head coaching candidate for the NFL in general. And if the Raiders are going to move on from Antonio Pierce, and look, that's still a big if, we still don't really know, but if you were to do that, this is definitely the type of coach you want if you're going to draft a young, raw prospect like Jalen Milroe. He obviously has experience working with run-first mobile quarterbacks like we see him with Lamar Jackson, and just seeing how dynamic that Ravens offense is and how Lamar Jackson has looked under Todd Monken. He has a solid track record of having success in NFL offenses and in college. So he's definitely not a one-hit wonder type of candidate. He's been coaching up successful offenses for a while now. And I think Todd Monken is definitely a pretty solid coaching option. And what I do like is the fact that when you get a head coach that has the ability to call plays, it helps you avoid a scenario where if your team is successful, you have to find a new offensive coordinator every couple years. So that's something interesting. Now, he also did mention the fact that he would like us to sign Justin Fields as a free agent. I mean, me personally, I don't really like Justin Fields as a quarterback, but as a free agent option, he could definitely be a viable choice for us, especially if we're going to go this route, like the mobile quarterback route. But I'm not sure. At that point, I don't know if I would want Justin Fields. He's also a guy that's not really a veteran. He's still young. So I don't really think he would help a quarterback like Jalen Milroe develop or anything like that. And he's also a quarterback that needs to work on his passing abilities, work on being able to read NFL defenses, and just become an overall better passer. So I'd rather bring in a guy that, could maybe help Jalen Milroe develop early on in his career. But this is definitely a fun, interesting scenario. If the Raiders, like I said, if we wanted to move on from Antonio Pierce, if we ultimately do end up firing him after this season, we'll just have to see if that happens. But if the Raiders want to change their philosophy on the offensive side of the football, I would definitely like a modern, dynamic play caller like Todd Monken. It is also very important to know that if we went this route, we would very likely have to go through like a new rebuild, though, with a lot of new players, a new system, new scheme, new coaches. So that is going to take time. But, let me know what you guys think of this scenario. Let me know what you guys overall think of Jalen Milroe as well, who was definitely like the main focus of this video. Do you guys think he's an option that should be seriously considered for us? And just let me know what you guys think of Todd Monken as a potential head coach for us. But with that being said, Raider Nation, that's all for you guys in today's video. Anybody that's new to the channel, you guys love Raider related content just like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. That being said, I will see you guys in the next one.